Thank you for coming out tonight and being part of the special forum about the September 16th bond referendum, a plan for student success and security. I'm Mark Kruszczynski. I've been a parent of North Plainfield students for the past 16 years or so, and I've been humbly serving you as the president of the North Plainfield Board of Education for the past 3 years. And I'll be your moderator for tonight's event. So all of us here at North Plainfield have goals for our students. To meet them, we must continue providing a safe and supportive learning environment. Our buildings need improvements to be able to meet our mission. Tonight, you're going to hear about our proposal for improvements that will make positive impacts at every school in the district. We want to share details with as many community members as possible. So this forum is being recorded for anyone who cannot join us tonight. And it's going to be posted on our website and social media accounts. So keep following the website and social media for updates on this referendum. So happy to say we have a great panel who's going to talk about the referendum and answer all of your questions. And let me introduce them. So many of you know our esteemed superintendent, Dr. Michelle Aquino. Some of you might not know Ms. Graziano, who works constantly behind the scenes as our school business administrator, and it's her job to manage the district's finances. We also have with us North Plainfield's high school principal, Mr. Joseph Krouse, who's here tonight to talk about how the many projects being proposed at the high school would benefit all of our students. And we are also joined by our professional consultants working on this referendum. We're joined by Mr. Bill Bannister of Parrott Somgen Architects, who has helped us plan this referendum and the projects that it entails. The architectural firm of Parrott Somgen has been North Plainfield School District's architect for 16 years. And this firm understands the unique needs of school districts in New Jersey because they've been partnering with them for the past 24 years and partnering with us for the past 16. We're also joined by our financial team, Andrea Kahn, Amy Baumgaertel from McKinnon, Scotland and Bauman, which is our bond counsel, and Ms. Robbi Acampora of Phoenix Advisors, who is also one of our financial advisors. We will have a designated time for questions and answers following the brief presentation. So we'll have plenty of time to answer all the questions that you have before us. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over how tonight will work. We're going to follow a schedule you see here on your screen of key topics about the referendum. We're going to explain in detail how we ended up prioritizing these projects and why we believe a referendum is the right way to get them done. Our financial experts will outline how the district could make $34 million in upgrades with a zero tax impact on all of us. You'll hear Mr. Bannister talk about the projects themselves. And then Principal Krouse will explain why these improvements are so vitally needed. Then after all that, we're going to open up the floor for questions. And when we open up the floor for questions, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and type your question into the box that appears. Your questions won't appear on screen, but you can be sure that we're going to be seeing them, and we'll do our very best to answer as many of them as possible. So, and if you would like to listen to this forum in another language, please scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the chat. So, quieres escuchar este forum en otra lengua, por favor, empuje el QR code abajo de la screen y click el chat. So finally, we're going to go over everything the community needs to know about voting. So, Dr. Aquino, would you like to kick things off, ma'am?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Kruszczynski. And I am honored to be here this evening to discuss this exciting and important opportunity for our district. We'd like to take tonight as an opportunity to offer an update about our schools following the severe flash flooding on July 14th. So just to give a summary of where we are post-flood, Stony Brook Playground should be ready to welcome students by the first day of school. We are currently seeking quotes to replace the fencing so that our Stony Brook students can safely use the playgrounds. Although displaced from their offices, our operations department, the leaders who take excellent care of our buildings and grounds, the operations department is fully functional and their work will continue uninterrupted while their facility and their main office is being healed. The insurance process, due to the damage caused by this unusual storm, is ongoing. We are not likely to have a solution to announce in time for the vote on September 16th regarding insurance. But as we learn more, we will certainly make sure we communicate that to our greater community. As we have also shared previously, the auditorium in the high school and middle school, as well as the wrestling gym, will require some more work in order to open and will not be ready for the start of school. We do not anticipate the auditorium to be ready until well into this school year. We will continue to keep you updated on the progress with these spaces as we are growing towards solutions. But back to the reason we are here tonight. We have been talking a lot about the zero tax impact referendum over the past several months, but the planning for the zero tax impact referendum started more than a year ago as part of our district's vision and strategic planning. The projects in this referendum have been prioritized based on a combination of factors from the architect's recommendations to items in the projects that qualified for the maximum amount of state aid, which you'll learn more about this evening, community feedback that we gathered through our thought exchange regarding facilities, and projects that would fit within the same budget as the district's expiring debt. What people say. We had gone to our stakeholders, our students, our staff, and our families, and these comments that you see on the screen were all taken into consideration when we planned for these referendum projects. We used them to address the community's top concerns, balanced with the architect's recommendations and projects that would be eligible for state aid. And it's important as you look at these words, you're hearing firsthand from students that use our environment to talk about the stage, to talk about the kitchen spaces and the cabinets. And we will go more deeply into that this evening. Balanced with all of the content from architects, projects eligible for state aid, and those that fit within our district's long-term vision for our students' future. Ms. Graziano will now share a little bit about how our budget works and why a bond referendum is a strategy districts use to complete these large-scale improvements. Ms. Graziano?
Thank you, Dr. Aquino. Yes, we have taken much time in reviewing the projects that are in need around the district and brought together the stakeholders within the community as well as the professionals that we work with. The projects will touch every school, but you will notice that the Somerset Intermediate School doesn't have any projects proposed at this time. That's because Somerset is our most recently renovated building in the district. Taking care of these needs with a bond preserves the operating budget for instruction. Our budget process begins with zero-based budgeting, meaning we create a budget based on the needs of the district, based on salaries, benefits, enrollment, everyday operational expenses, and instruction and programming. The annual budget includes buildings and grounds and maintenance. Large structural mechanical capital projects are not necessarily within the district's local budget. This bond allows the community to receive the benefits of $34 million in capital improvement without an increased burden on the tax levy for community members.
So thank you, Dr. Aquino and Ms. Graziano. So we do have an excellent team here tonight to explain our financial strategy. We have worked with our financial advisors throughout the process to make sure that these improvements have a zero tax impact of all of us residents here in North Plainfield. So Ms. Graziano, could you explain what all that means?
Yes, the zero tax impact is a financial strategy of timing and state aid, passing off our previous debt and new investment in begins, and along with the state aid payment of $19.1 million, bringing the local share to 14.9 for a $34 million total in projects. We know we have to take care of the building needs, but we want to address them without any change in tax. Taking care of larger projects with bond funding preserves more of our annual budget. Our strategy is to combine timing plus state aid. Debt from previous referendum projects is coming to an end. More than $19 million in state aid plus passed off debt equals zero tax impact. That means the property owners pay for debt related to the schools would stay the same. State aid is so important, we want to explain it a little more. The state has already committed funding for 56% of the costs. Many districts only receive 40%. This reduces the amount that would land on the local tax bills. State aid makes payments each year, like helping pay off loans. It comes from everyone's taxes around New Jersey, those that travel in New Jersey, live in New Jersey, and even across the state. State aid for North Plainfield equals $19.1 million. The financial aid comes from the state budget, and we want to bring some of that to North Plainfield.
Thank you, Ms. Graziano. Now I'd like to introduce Ms. Amy Baumgaertel, our district's bond counsel, to explain how a bond referendum actually works. Amy, take it away, ma'am.
Sure. So normally a school district will issue bonds when it needs to fund large capital projects. However, legally, the district is not allowed to issue bonds unless it has voter approval to do so. So a referendum is basically asking the voters to decide if the district is permitted to issue bonds to pay for the projects being discussed tonight. There are many benefits to funding these projects through bonds. First, instead of paying for the project cost all at once, the district is able to spread the cost over a longer period of time. Additionally, and one of the most significant benefits is that issuing bonds to fund these projects means the district will receive $19.1 million from the state to help pay for these projects and reduce the impacts on taxpayers. So where does the state money come from and how can the district receive it? The state collects taxes from all New Jersey residents to help fund school improvements. A portion of this money can come back to the school district if the referendum passes and the district issues bonds to pay for the projects. In this case, if the referendum passes and the district issues bonds, the state has committed to paying $19.1 million, which will significantly help reduce the impact on taxpayers.
So thanks, Ms. Baumgaertel. So we know that the referendum questions on the September 16th ballot will use a language that's a bit more formal than we're using tonight. So can you explain the ballot question in simple terms?
Sure. So the law requires us to include specific technical language and information in the ballot question, which can make the ballot question a little confusing. And unfortunately, we don't have much ability to add or change the way the question is written. So to briefly break it down, the question is providing voters with a brief description of the projects, the total cost of the projects, and it's asking the voters for permission to borrow money by selling bonds to pay for the projects. It is important to note that we are legally required to include these total costs, which is why you see in the question the total cost of about $34 million. However, the district will be receiving money from the state, as previously said, to help cover these costs. This is money the state is already committed to providing the district if the referendum is successful. So although the total cost is included in the question, in reality, the state will be providing the district with money to help pay for these projects, which the state will fund approximately 56% of the costs.
So thank you for that explanation. We'll now hear more about the zero tax impact from Ms. Acampora, the district's financial advisor.
Thank you.
Robbi, take it away.
So as you've heard, the district is looking to borrow $34 million for projects for a number of the schools. And what we've done is we've worked with the district for over a year to do these financial impact projections to try to figure out how to achieve the zero tax impact. So they're getting 56% debt service aid on an annual basis. So the district, when they pay their debt service, will be getting that percentage from the state right before the debt service payments are due. We've projected the bonds to be repaid over 25 years. We usually do this and decide on the term based on the useful life of the improvements. So in other words, these are long-term improvements. The district is actually just coming off of the 25-year bond that was issued in 2001. And that's how we've layered this in. When that last bond payment is done on the old bond issue, the next budget will include the new debt service from this referendum, should it be successful. We've assumed a 4.25% interest rate, which is a conservative rate based on today's rates. These are tax exempt bonds. So if you hear that rate and you think that might be a little bit low compared to mortgage rates, it is, because these are tax exempt bonds. This is a public entity that can issue tax exempt bonds. As I mentioned, it is for 25 years. If interest rates drop over that term, we have the ability to refinance the bonds to save the district money, just like anyone could refinance a mortgage or a loan if interest rates dropped enough to be able to do that. I think that's really it for now. I'm here to answer any questions if anyone has as we go through the night.
Thank you, Ms. Acampora. So let's get into the meat and potatoes about the actual proposed projects themselves. So Mr. Bannister, could you kind of tell us about some of the much needed building improvements that appear on the ballot?
Sure,
these upgrades would allow us to continue building a strong foundation for our instructional program. So Bill, take it away.
Sure, thanks, Mark. So the the Department of Education really identifies two main buckets of projects when it comes to renovations or new construction to a school district. So the first one is from a very broad overview, the systems of the projects. And those systems consist of, in our case, the security vestibules that will be added at East End, West End, Stony Brook, and the high school. In addition to those security vestibules, if you look at the third bullet point, they will include accessibility ramps so that individuals that are disabled can get in and out of the buildings easily. It would also include a more secure student-centered main office that includes renovation to the offices themselves, as well as the nurses suite and a security vestibule. And then the older HVAC systems at East End and West End will be updated to match some of the more recently updated locations. And then, as some may have seen, the window replacements at the middle school and high school, where at times the windows don't even close and you could see daylight through them when you don't want to.
Thanks, Bill. And so those are very sort of important infrastructure parts. Could you kind of tell us now about some of the changes at the high school that's going to enhance the educational programming itself, like classes and what students are going to see and learn in class? Can you tell us more about those? Sure.
So, as I said, the Department of Education really breaks the two buckets into systems and then educational. Here are some examples of some of the educational. The first one being the science labs at the middle school and the high school. Much of the equipment does not work. There's a lack of technology. They're not really designed for hands-on learning, and they're unable to offer some of the advanced courses, leaving students unprepared. Something I kind of just want to touch on for all of the educational type projects. When a lot of these schools are designed and built, there is a different way to educate those in those classes. That has kind of evolved in time. So the classrooms are still how they were many, many years ago, but the way that they teach has evolved. So a lot of times that really has to be taken into consideration when you start to renovate these spaces. So
Thank you,
next, I believe, is the media center. Again, this is a great example. When libraries were at their fullest, there were rows of books and students would go and take books out to sit at a desk and read it. And that's really no longer the way that those spaces are used anymore. So in this case, books fill the floor space. They're not really designed for any flexibility. And then to kind of reimagine that, the book space could be more efficient. Students have space to work together, college and career center, and then adding a TV studio and other new learning options. Then next we have the culinary arts. This also is very old and in construction timeframe, and it was designed inefficiently for hands-on learning. Appliances are now 50 years old, as we all know that's really just not okay. And then the reimagine is to have multifunction stations, modern safety features, and career-focused program. Next, we have locker rooms. The locker rooms are damaged tiles, flooring, plumbing, lockers. Many of the showers don't even work. From a security standpoint and a supervision standpoint, with the tall lockers that you see there, it's really hard to see over and kind of monitor what's going on in the spaces. And from an accessibility standpoint, it does not meet modern guidelines. And then finally, the auditorium. So the auditorium is getting a renovation from the stage, as we all know, is currently happening, to seating, which you can see there is the seats are falling apart, to curtain being damaged, and the accessibility where someone in a wheelchair currently can't have a companion seat next to them, which is required by code. So the auditorium as it stands today is really struggling, and this is a well-needed renovation to that structural space.
In regards to the auditorium, as far as the storm damage, we are working with the restoration company as well as the insurance adjusters. They are putting together the plan, working side by side with both our operations department as well as our architects, because the project was much more extensive for the referendum piece, but we will definitely have some replacement of the stage floor as well as some of the flooring on the actual auditorium floor. So in combination, that would work together. And then if there was any benefit at the end where the project itself came in along with the insurance payment came in a little less, then that could go back for tax relief at a later date.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Bill. So let's really kind of cut to the important part, how these changes are going to impact and improve the education of North Plainfield students. That's the core of this. So I'm going to let Principal Krouse explain, how these changes are going to impact the day-to-day educational experiences of our students. Take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Kruszczynski. Our staff members at the high school do the important work of supporting academic growth and creating positive student experiences. But the condition of our outdated facilities presents challenges for them and for our students. The current science labs were designed for curricula and equipment that have become outdated. Power supplies and storage spaces are limited. Ventilation and plumbing systems are far from a different era. Safety features have not advanced. It's challenging to integrate modern technology into labs designed decades ago. Middle and high school students need modern learning environments that mirror real-world scientific work. In addition to updated electrical, plumbing, and safety systems, renovations would be redesigned so that students can seamlessly transition from lecture-based instruction to hands-on experimentation. Flexible furniture would support collaboration. The proposed redesign would do more than refresh these labs with a new look. They would align with curriculum evolutions, workforce needs, and New Jersey's next generation science standards. We can actually finally offer AP chemistry to our deserving students and help make them more competitive in the field of postgraduate sciences. The high school's media center. It was designed primarily to hold books and serve as a site for passive individual use. Now, with so much information available online, the media center has the potential to provide space for more interactive learning. While books will remain a main feature of this room, the new space will allow for more student collaboration. The added space would give the media center a new purpose as a collaborative place where students work together on projects, meet as clubs, and use electronic devices to research and access the newest data. Updated technology and convenient power supplies. It would be equipped with it for a television studio. Imagine that. And other capabilities to support an expanded curriculum, such as digital arts or broadcast journalism. It would bring this important space in line with the needs of the 21st century, including research, digital literacy, and flexible learning. And inside the high school's media center currently is a small office for a career-focused counselor. It isn't large enough to serve our student population. The reimagined version would be large enough for small group meetings, independent college research, and conversations with the career counselor. The center would be updated to create a very inviting look with comfortable tables and seating, similar to what a modern university might have. With this renovation, the improved center would be better positioned to help students explore career paths. Home economics. A classroom in the high school has been called home economics for decades. Its layout and equipment match the 1970s era when home economics was taught with family homekeeping in mind. It needs new appliances and cabinetry that can prepare students for today's career pathways. Its floor plan could be redesigned for more hands-on learning. Safety features could be updated. These improvements would transform not just the room, but the instructional program. The high school could enhance and expand its course offerings to teach culinary arts for a range of career choices. Locker rooms. The locker rooms are so important to all of our students. And I mention all of our students because physical education is a requirement through 12th grade. And gym and locker rooms are used daily by every student, not just the athletes. And the wear and tear from the heavy use over the decades has really worn down this space. It's not designed for the appropriate sight lines you need for enhanced security. Showers do not work and are not used, and that space can be converted for better use. When it comes to accessibility, every renovation is an opportunity to increase it. And finally, our auditorium. Our auditorium is home to many of our North Plainfield students who capture the essence of performing arts. The auditorium is a multifunctional space, instructional space, that also brings our North Plainfield community together for special events. That includes concerts, musical theater, and informational sessions for parents and students. During the school day, the auditorium serves to further enhance instruction with programs that address diversity, social emotional learning needs, and bullying. After hours, we utilize the auditorium to recognize students for academic honors and programs, which helps to enhance college and career readiness. The auditorium needs a complete renovation. These photos show the auditorium before the recent storm damage. Wear and tear over decades of heavy use. Old seats broken. Not many options with those for mobility issues. Stage floor was already damaged. Now, the stage and some flooring are being removed because of stormwater infiltration. Replacing the stage and at least some of the auditorium floor and walls and seating is no longer a choice for the referendum. But the remaining upgrades are needed to enhance this space and make the auditorium a showcase for all of the North Plainfield community to love. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So thanks to everyone so far for talking about all the possibilities. And hopefully it's been comprehensive. But now is the time where we're going to take any and all questions from our residents, neighbors, citizens, everyone in the audience tonight. So audience members, if you have a question, click the QA button at the bottom of your screen and then type your question into the little box that appears and submit your question. We're not going to read the name of the people submitting the question. Your questions are completely confidential. We're just going to, put the question out there, and I'll point to one of my esteemed, colleagues here to try to do the best we can to answer it. So we have the first question. Bill, this one's for you, sir. So what is the timeline for completing these projects?
So, Mark, the timeline really kind of varies depending on what the project is, because from a very high level, there's quite a few things that go into the design, the bid, and the ultimate construction of a project. Those things are lead times, where something may take quite a long time to get nowadays. Some things taking up to 6 months or 7 months just to get it here to be installed. There needs to be thought put on the economies of scale. So grouping of projects to put them out to bid together. That way we get a better price because there's more of it. There is also that we have to take into consideration the contractor pool. So there's a limited contractor pool in the state. So we have to make sure that when we bid this stuff, it's early so that we make sure that we get good contractors. We have to consider the bidding period, which is 40 days. We have to consider how long it takes for permits and to execute contracts. And ultimately, some of the submittals that need to be submitted for the district and for the architect's office to actually approve. So just walking you through one project type, let's just say we took East End, West End HVAC. And I'm going to make updates. So let's just say on October 1st, we were released to start our drawings. Those drawings would take 4 to 5 months for us to generate. So we would go through the schools. We would do all of the various design work that goes along with that. So we would be looking to go out to bid somewhere in the late winter, early spring timeframe. So March, we'll just say. So March 1, we'll be out to bid Bidding is 30 to 40 days. So April 1 or thereabouts, we're opening bids for that project. Then, assuming that it's the low responsible bidder, we could award at the next board meeting. So let's just say 15 days after that, puts you somewhere around the middle of April. Permits have to be submitted for, so that is another 20 to 30 days for them to secure those permits. Running concurrent with that, you could have them start to submit some submittals, and those are really just proof of what you're installing, and it's an approval that PSA and the district is happy with what they're installing, and it's per the drawings. And so that takes us to somewhere between May 15th and June 15th. And then that's when they order the materials. And as I said earlier, the materials can take, for some things that are off the shelf, they could be a week. For other things like HVAC equipment, they could be 6 months. So there are some HVAC equipment that has a lead time of 9 months and some that have 3 months. So let's just take the middle and say it's 4 months. That means that you're not getting your HVAC equipment dropped to your site until October 15th. So so a little bit over 1 full year after we were released to start the project. So that's just an example of some of the timing and some of the complications that go along with these. And it'll be kind of situational depending on how we move along. I think there will be some projects that will have shorter lead times and could start that summer of 26, but there are others that cannot. But the expectation is that everything will be completed and constructed by the summer of 29.
Super. Thank you. And that's a great question. Anyone who's ever had a home renovation, you bring in someone to redo your bathtub, some things kind of, get behind schedule. But I do have to say, with Bill and his firm, they're one of the heavy hitters in New Jersey school architecture. And, when Bill kind of says something to a contractor, they listen. So I have every confidence, Bill, that you're going to get things done, as quickly as everything can allow. So we have another question for you, Bill. Will science teachers be consulted on the design of the new labs?
Absolutely. So this is I am, when I'm done and the contractor constructs these spaces, I'm not going to be the one teaching them. There are going to be others that are going to be teaching in them. So I want them to help guide me. I will share my experiences based on the host of other science classrooms that I've done throughout the state. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna stand my ground and say this is how it should be. I'm just gonna give examples and take guidance from others.
And if I could build on to that, our architects, Bill, they've been great at showing up and being present with any of the projects that we have had that we have garnered teacher input. They've been at all of the meetings, whether it was for Upper Crouch Fields or our new STEM lab. So I have no doubt that the teachers will be very, very actively sought after to do visits to other schools, as well as really look at our facility.
So, question, an important one. So if the referendum doesn't pass, how will we get the money to pay for these upgrades? How's the district going to proceed and go forward if it doesn't pass?
Okay, I'm happy to take that one, Dr. Kruszczynski. I think that this infographic is a very helpful one that talks about what happens if it passes or if we do not. I think one of the most important things is that if the bond referendum is not approved, our district would lose the $19.1 million in state aid, and we would have to really do these projects piecemeal over many, many years and likely have to pay 100% of these projects over these years. So we definitely would need to address the school's needs for security, HVAC renovations, and then of course the instructional spaces, which Mr. Krouse spoke very, very detailed about and gave a good vision of what could be for our students. But these projects would have to be done piecemeal as a part of our regular operating budget, which has a 2% cap. And if you've been to our budget meetings, you know that our discretionary spending is a very small percentage of that pie. And in the meantime, our community would have to fund 100% of them, as opposed to getting the $19.1 million in aid. And most importantly, our students would not have the facilities that would match our high vision for the academics and safety that we see potential for our students.
Thank you, Dr. Aquino. So another question kind of brings me back to that repairing, getting the new bathtub, in your house. So say, we budget a certain amount, but what happens if the projects cost more than expected? Amy, you want to take that?
Sure. So first, the district is not permitted to spend a penny more than what is authorized through the referendum. When you see the total cost, a cushion has been built into that to account for unknowns such as an increase in cost or market fluctuations. If the project costs do exceed the amount authorized for the bond referendum, the district would need to go back and search for a more efficient way to achieve their goals or perhaps reduce the scope of work. Another important thing is the ballot language does allow the district to move funds among projects. So if one project ends up coming under, but another one's over, you can transfer funds between the projects.
Thank you, Amy. So Pam, a question for you. So what other avenues for funding have been contemplated instead of just doing a referendum?
Well, thank you, Dr. Kruszczynski. I think Dr. Aquino touched on that with the last slide in regards to if it passes or if it fails. The other options we have over the last 5 years utilized our additional state aid that we've received over year after year for the last 5 years. So that has helped to get some projects done, and ESSERS was utilized during those last few years as well. In regards to the option, there's not any other opportunity that allows us to do $34 million worth of projects in less than 5 years, pay for it over 25 years, and no tax impact, as well as $19.1 million from the state.
Thank you, Pam. So I have a question. I'm going to start with Bill, but Principal Krouse might take a chunk of it too. So the question is, what's the plan to minimize learning disruptions in the auditorium, the science lab, and the library spaces during construction?
That is a great question, and it is painful every year to try to plan for something like that, because I get 10 weeks and I'm told that it all has to be done in those 10 weeks of the summer. So a lot of prep work is done. Specifically, I'll just take for this case, the science labs, the casework, all of the tops, all of that stuff is pre-ordered. And as I said earlier, it's really kind of planned out so that once that first day of summer starts, those rooms start to get renovated, and they're demolished, and everything that's there is ripped out in the first week or two, and everything that has to be new gets put back in it over the course of the next 8 weeks. I will say sometimes if there is some flexibility, maybe that could be taken offline a couple weeks earlier, or go a couple weeks into the next school year when it's needed. A lot of times, if it's planned correctly, specifically for the science labs, that could be done, over those 10 weeks. Some of the other things that happen or that could occur, there's second shift work that happens where once the school day is over, the contractors can come in and do work. That's usually more for the non-educational type projects. So maybe a window project, for example, that could be done second shift. And then there will be some disruption. Not all projects can get done over 10 weeks. It's just not possible. So there will be quiet hours in which contractors can't work, and there will be quiet hours that there can't be any loud noises, and then there will be the execution of second shift, and some of those spaces will need to be taken offline for some period of time.
Well, that's construction.
I was going to say, and I can add to that too. And I think what we would do is, like we've done with other, projects, we would coordinate the timeline, identify the spaces that would be utilized and the spaces that would not be utilized. And we would be very careful when creating our schedules for our students to find those available spaces in the high school to ensure that instruction doesn't skip a beat. And because that's the ultimate goal. We want to continue to provide instruction without disrupting, student learning. And we would coordinate that with the architect, obviously, and our business office and our maintenance department. And, we would create the schedule that would meet the students' needs.
Thanks, Joe. And a follow-up to that question. So let's imagine, hypothetically, the referendum passes, and now we're in the summer of 26. So with summer school scheduled for the high school, and so high school classes being used for summer school, how will construction sort of be possible and accommodated during the summer?
So I think based on the spaces and where that's going to be located, there's going to need to be some shifting of where the summer school happens and where it cannot happen. And all of the other things that I had mentioned earlier will kind of have to be considered. There might need to be quiet hours. There might need to be times that certain things can occur. And that too, whether it's summer or whether it's during the school year, that too may need to happen second shift and over long weekends and that kind of stuff in order to get it accomplished.
And if I build
I'm
on
sorry,
that.
go ahead.
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, Joe.
No, you go.
We have had several years of a tremendous amount of work happening in the summer, from HVAC in our middle and high school to, closing down gyms, building additions onto East End. And what we've really just been strategic in doing is when we are planning summer school, we come together and we just take a look at the different facilities. And sometimes they might not be in the home school, but we make sure that in one of our 6 schools, we're able to host summer school and summer programming.
I actually was going to echo what you were going to say too. We have a very collaborative team, especially, the middle school principal, Mr. Lake, and myself. And we, before summer schools even start, he and I meet together with our facility director, Mr. White, and we already go through which rooms are the best fit for each programs to ensure that summer school is not interrupted at all.
Thank you. So, many residents, their kids might have graduated, years and years ago, and many residents, simply don't have kids in school or don't have kids. So if you don't have, kids in the school anymore, why vote for this?
Okay. I'm happy.
Michelle, why don't you take
Great.
that?
Absolutely. So of course, as a school district, we can never tell any of our residents how to vote, but we can certainly say that a community benefits by having updated schools, updated facilities, really advanced programming. We believe the strength of a community is directly related to the strength of its schools. And we do make updates to our schools each year, but it is hard to complete large projects like these within a regular operating budget. Bond funding would allow us to get these projects done much more efficiently and quickly, rather than saving up for many, many years and just doing one project here and one project there. Security vestibules are a great example. Some schools do have them, and we did build one recently to the middle school. We have one at Somerset, but this referendum is a plan that would allow us to finish that goal more quickly and get all of our schools the safest entry points, rather than saving up for one school at a time and one security vestibule at a time. We also can't forget that state aid comes with bond funding. So that means that the state contributes 56% of the cost, which is an advantage to our community of $19.1 million. So our residents are paying into that $19.1 million, whether they have children in the schools or whether they do not. So if we make any of these improvements through our regular budget, we would just not have access to that state aid that comes with the bond referendum. And the regular budget is funded primarily through our local tax dollars, and there is no room to do all of these projects within a short period of time to better our schools and better our community.
Thank you, Superintendent Aquino. So just a reminder to everybody how to ask questions. I'm going to put up on the screen, how to ask questions. So we want to get as many questions, and this is important for the whole district. So we want to really answer as many questions as completely possible. Right. So another excellent question. Back to Dr. Aquino. So what happens to the tax rate if the voters reject the referendum?
That's a really great question. So I'll have a twofold answer to that. If the majority of the voters say no on September 16th, the current property tax for school debt would end after 2026. So our debt would roll off and that previous debt would no longer be there. So what that means is for the owner of a home assessed at the North Plainfield average, it means a reduction of almost $13 a month. Now, aside from that, I also, and I know I sound a little bit like a broken record with this, Dr. Kruszczynski, so I apologize, but if that does not happen, then we lose that $19.1 million that the state has deemed necessary to get these projects done for safety and health, as Mr. Bannister had spoken about before, for our school improvements. So the must-do projects like security vestibules would take many years. Old HVAC systems and windows would continue to strain our budget because they'd have to do piecemeal repairs and, quite frankly, lost energy, which does cost our district a fair amount of money. And then also instructional programs, including culinary arts and AP chemistry, would not be permissible, nor would they evolve until these improvements would happen, which means that our students are going to schools and competing against students from other schools in New Jersey that are coming from much more robust programs like broadcast journalism, culinary arts, and AP Chem, which our students have come back and said they feel that they're at a disadvantage because they can't have that, and we can't host it because of our aging systems.
Thank you. Another wise question. Is the time right? You know, this time, 2025, is the time right economically to take all this on? Punt that to Robbi and Amy.
Sure, I'd like to start. Interest rates are really at a low point. You know, people talk every day about, you know, the Fed raise rates, lower rates, et cetera. But as I said before, 4.25%, which is our projection to borrow these funds for 25 years, is a very good interest rate. During the pandemic, the rates dropped really low. And people know if they bought houses in 2020, 2021, but that was an anomaly. These rates at 4.25% are really good. And as I said before, if rates dropped further, we'd have the ability to refinance the bonds. So I do think it's a good time to do this. And I also think, I mean, we've said this kind of ad nauseum about this state aid, but it wasn't always available. At the end of the last economic crisis, the governor stopped giving this aid for a few years. Schools' projects were put on hold before referendums. You have to get the approval from the state for these, they call allowable costs, and the state gives the district letters that says, yes, we're going to give you this 56%. North Plainfield has those letters in hand, and they're going to get that aid. If you waited a couple of years, we just don't know what's going to happen. There's going to be a new administration. We don't know what's happened. You've got those letters in hand now, and getting that, it just can't be emphasized enough, in my opinion. You know, if Amy wants to add anything to that.
The only thing I would add is it just right now we're seeing costs go up in general. So there's no guarantee that if we waited and did these projects in the future, that costs would go down. It could end up being more. So there's a benefit to moving now.
I guess sort of related to this, I want to bring up something that I thought of before too. With the potential insurance coming in to take care of some of the auditorium, and also if by chance, and I've been doing this a long time, you know, there's times that budgets come in over budget, but there's also times that architects go out to bid and they're under budget. At the end of this, I think that Michelle mentioned this before, but at the end of all of this, if there's any funds left over, it has to go back to pay the bonds off. So if there's any insurance money that comes in, or if there are projects that come in under budget and there's bond proceeds left over, by law, it has to go to pay the next principal payment on the bond. So that's something to keep in mind. The money doesn't get squandered if things come in under budget, and the district doesn't get to go spend the money somewhere else. I think that's important to think about too.
Thank you, Ms. Acampora.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not seeing any additional questions, but we want to, you know, keep this opportunity open for a few more moments, make a last call for any questions, and then we'll move on. So we'll wait a few moments and see if any more questions come in. I'm a very patient man, so I'm going to wait a few more moments. Okay. And seeing none, we're going to move on ahead. And so we've had a lot of information about the referendum, and it's important to learn more about actual voting and have a plan to vote on or before September 16th. So, Dr. Aquino, would you let everyone know, how they can vote?
Absolutely. And every ballot counts in a bond referendum. I mean, this election can be decided by a single vote. There are two ways to vote in the North Plainfield School referendum, the zero tax impact referendum. There are important voter dates. Vote by mail can be done anytime from now until September 16th. A voter who previously applied for mail-in voting for all elections should receive a ballot, and Somerset County advised us that they would be mailing them this week. If you still want to apply for a mail-in ballot, you can still fill out an application and send that to the Somerset County Board of Elections. That simple form is also on our website and can be printed and can be picked up at the district office, and it must be received by the county by Monday, September 9th, for that office to send you a mail-in ballot in time for this election. When you receive this mail-in ballot, it has to have a postmark by September 16th to count for the zero tax impact referendum. You can also deposit your ballot in a drop box or even bring it to the county clerk's office by 8 p.m. on that day. Mail-in ballots will not be accepted at in-person polling locations. There's also, though, an alternative to using the postal system, and that has a little bit of a later deadline. You can handle the entire vote by mail process in person, but to do that, you do have to go to the county clerk's office in Somerville and ask them for an application rather than mailing in your application. And that needs to be done by 3 p.m. on Monday, September 15th. And you can mark your ballot and turn it in during that same in-person visit. No postal system required. A lot of information, all on our website, by the way, www.nplainfield.org/vote. The second way to vote is, of course, the traditional in-person method. There are 2 polling places that will be open on Tuesday, September 16th. Those 2 polling places will be our East End School and our Stony Brook School. Polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., where voters can cast their ballots at either location. When you receive your sample ballot, it will list one location. However, it's really important to note that the Somerset County officials have advised that voters can go to either location to cast their ballot. Again, in-person voters can go to either polling location, East End School or Stony Brook, to cast their ballot despite what's listed on that sample ballot. So again, I know there's a lot of information, dates, and times, and please be assured that all of this is on our website, and don't hesitate to reach out to any of our offices, and we'll be happy to answer any of these questions.
So thank you, Dr. Aquino. So as you mentioned, just see our website too. For much more information, there's a frequently asked questions section, a video, more project details, and we're also going to put there a recording of this form on the website. So I want to thank all the district leaders and our professional consultants on our panel tonight. And I want to thank all of you, my neighbors, our community members, the people that, support the kids in this community. And thanks for joining us tonight, talking about the September 16th bond referendum. And I think it is a really sensible, reasonable plan for security and success, but we put it up for the vote on the 16th of September. So it's an important decision for our schools and our entire community, frankly. So please stay updated, remember to vote, and have a great night. Thank you all so much.